As you probably noticed by now, I like optimizing my stuff. I just find such joy in working uninhabited by my tools that I really try to make sure that basically any piece of any workflow I do is kind of as streamlined as I can, remove as much friction from it as possible. Now, with this comes a lot of experimentation. And if you are into the, I don't know, for example, the PKM, the personal knowledge management crowd, or Linux rising, or whatever, there is a whole rabbit hole where everything is about like, oh, this is going to be the perfect workflow and it's going to work so well. And there is a big chunk of like shiny new toy syndrome attached to this, like, oh, trust me, bro, this one last plugin that will take 12 hours to set up, this is going to change my life and I'm going to be so productive afterwards. These get a bad rep. And I think for a good reason, right? Because procrastination obviously is a problem. And then preparing to do the work is meaningless without actually doing the work. But today I actually want to make the case for sharpening the axe, so to say. There is that old Abe Lincoln saying that, like, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And I really like that. And today we are going to make the case that you should spend some time kind of like optimizing and dialing in the workflows around you. And it's not always procrastination. I think the number one point where you should really invest some time in optimizing it and making sure it's frictionless is the way you interact with text. Whether it is text as in writing an article or whether it's text as in code, you likely spend a lot of time interacting with text in your day-to-day life. And of course, as you can learn from, one of these videos, is that I really enjoy using NeoVim for the purpose, by the way, of interacting with text, because I just grown to really enjoy the speed at which I can do it. But I do not think that is for everyone. And I also don't think that you should immediately just like, pick up Vim. It's much more about like learning to use the tool of your choice best. For me, when I learned like basic keyboard shortcuts in the software that you use, I don't know, did you know that you can delete entire lines on Mac with Command backspace, or Option backspace deletes one word at a time instead of one character at a time? And there are windows and Linux to this. And even like small stuff like this can just like make the experience of interacting with text so much better and save you so much time down the line. So, if you are into like hyper personalization and stuff like that, maybe the NeoVim site is for you. But if you kind of don't want to sign up for like, 3 months of struggle before you're productive with the software, just start learning keyboard shortcuts, because I think that is a very good way to kind of make sure that you speed up your workflow without overwhelming yourself too much. For me, of course, I took it to the extreme, so I went down the NeoVim rabbit hole. Now I also use that to interact with Markdown manuscripts. Because I just got so used to the keyboard only navigation that it just feels very awkward if I have to like navigate text with my mouse. And for a bit of time, I actually felt kind of guilty about putting all the time into like dialing down and sharpening and optimizing and streamlining my NeoVim configuration. And because I was worried that I'm just procrastinating. And, to a degree, there is always going to be a bit of procrastination in this, right? But I think it's important to distinguish between like the shiny new toy syndrome and just like trying to make your life easier, right? And I think the best way I found is that you need to have a genuine point of friction in what you are doing now that you are trying to solve. Right? So if it's just like, okay, here is a workflow that is okay, and here's this completely unrelated thing that is kind of cool that you kind of want to plug in there, that's likely going to be procrastination. But if you have like a very well-defined problem, like, hey, I want to run Markdown code cells without having to specify what language, it's just like, recognize and send. And that is a specific problem. And yes, I probably poured too many hours into solving it over the last week, but the moment it's solved, it's done. And now I don't think about it anymore. So I think that there is this is a helpful distinction between kind of the procrastination shiny new toy and then genuinely just trying to streamline what you're doing. The other big example of kind of like streamlining and where it's worth to spend a bit of time in advance sharpening the axe for me was project templates. And I know that this might sound a bit strange. So for me, doing empirical research, this means a folder structure where I can store stuff about the paper itself, so a manuscript, the code I'm running, version control, and like requirements or dependency management of some sort. Coming up with a structure and a template that works well for me, that has all the pieces I need in one Git repo that I can just clone anytime I want to start a project, I can just pull that, and I know that all the stuff that I want and need is in there. And of course, like, it takes some time initially to set it up, and again, like, start from something very straightforward and then add the complexity as you need it. In the beginning, I was fine with like Markdown documents with all the code in there. Eventually I had to like branch out towards separating all of this because the code got too complex. Now I just write little modules for myself that I can include in like main run files. And if I need to mix languages, I'm gonna get into make files. And all of this to say that start from a pretty simple one and then add complexity as you need to. Down the line, the payoff of this is going to be immense, because now all the projects I'm running, I spend some time refactoring into this template. And now that means that if I need to like change between two projects, oh, I have a meeting about this project, let me catch up on it, I don't need to understand the entire code base again, because I know where everything is, because I wrote it, right? So I can just like step into it. Okay, this is the structure, here is where my manuscript lives, here is my visual or reporting notebooks lives, here is where the actual source code lives. Everything is just right there. And that just made my life so much easier in kind of like trying to juggle multiple things at the same time. I highly recommend spending some time on this. And I also spent some time thinking about like whether I want to actually like showcase and share my config in this video, and I decided I will not, because that is not the point. I don't want this video to be like a tutorial that kind of fuels your shiny new toy syndrome, where it's like, ooh, here is something that I can try. No, this is not about that. I really just wanted to kind of give you some food for thought and some like maybe some language to think about and start to delineate what it is that you could genuinely improve about your day-to-day workflows, without trying to, shove, I don't know, a plugin or a setup or a template down your throat, right? So I'm not going to share the workflow. I might make some videos in the future about some parts of it. But for this video, just the takeaway should be that you should really examine your workflows and see whether you can spot any friction in it from stuff that you could do quicker, from like frustrations that you notice often, all of these, and then spend some time whether there is a simple fix for them, because most likely there is. There is the common wisdom that like you really shouldn't over-engineer stuff like that, which is true, but at the same time, like not over-engineering doesn't mean scrapping engineering entirely, right? So don't over-engineer, but do engineer a little bit. All right, I'm gonna see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.